If there's regions concerned about fuel and fertiliser and other inputs threatened by the conflict in the Middle East, it would be this one. Now, the Division of Flynn, it's fairly large to say the least, 132,824 square k's. Federal electorate in Central Queensland, covering regional hubs such as Gladstone, Emerald and Banana Shire, with a rural industrial economy focused on coal, mining and ag. Colin Boyce is the federal member for Flynn before entering state politics state politics in 2017. He was an active partner in the family cattle and farming enterprise and the small engineering and earth-moving businesses. Colin was a councillor on the former Taroom Shire Council before the state Labor government amalgamated local councils. After leaving school, Colin worked throughout Queensland as a ringer, timber cutter, plant operator and earth-moving contractor. He believes rural and regional Australia needs strong representation in Parliament. Got to welcome first to our cameras to the show, the Country Telegraph, Colin Boyce. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, well, hello, Mike, and hello to the listeners.
Yes, we have you're not a guinea pig. We've been going now for a good 2 weeks, and it just seems like 10 years. Hey, tell us about first of all, the fuel crisis. It is a crisis, and a lot of this is the inactivity by the federal governments, and they've created this crisis in some way. But I was reading in one of the newspapers this morning that one guy was saying that he believes if this continues for the next few, maybe 3 or 4 days or 5 days, we're going to stop seeing food on shelves. Farmers won't be able to deliver their product. How serious is it for your area?
Look, it's very serious, and the whole point to all of this, it's clearly evident that the government does not understand how the supply chain works in respect to fuel deliveries. Now, the big companies, Viva, Ampol, BP, Mobil, they control, they're the big wholesalers, and they control all the fuel deliveries that come into Australia. They are not guaranteeing fuel quota, that is, to the third-party contractors that deliver fuel to particularly the agricultural sector and the small communities all over Australia. It's that simple. Last week in Parliament, I went and had 3 meetings with Chris Bowen, the Energy Minister, and I also spoke to the Prime Minister in person on this very issue. And the reality is that his advisors and all of the people that I spoke with, they don't understand that what is happening is the big wholesalers are restricting access to the fuel reserves that should be going to the agricultural and transport sectors via these third-party contractors. And that is what is making it so difficult to get fuel.
Yeah, I agree. And I was looking at the chart this guy provided today, and we're right down the bottom. We have got no reserves at all. And apparently that's against some convention. We're supposed to have 90 days worth of fuel, which if we had 90 days worth of fuel, we wouldn't be at this point, would we?
Well, again, there are reserves of fuel, particularly in the US, but the problem for Australia in the very short term is that we have very little fuel in the country. There's some 34 days at the last data I saw, and that includes the fuel that's actually on the water, in a ship coming here from Singapore or elsewhere in the world. Now, that's completely unacceptable. If we are to have national security, we need to have a reasonable amount of fuel stored in Australia. We need to have the capability of processing that fuel. We're down to our last 2 refineries, which is another issue I brought up with the Prime Minister, and that is that the Lytton refinery at the Port of Brisbane, well, it's due for a 10-week shutdown in June to August this year to bring the refinery up to low emissions fuel standard. And issue with that is that we can't afford to shut that refinery down given what's going on in the Middle East. So I believe the Prime Minister has taken that on board, and I certainly hope that that scheduled shutdown gets put off till later in the year or next year or whenever the whole show calms down a bit.
Yeah, it's pretty clever though, having your fuel reserves in the US. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? And by the way, that's both governments, whether Conservative or Labor, and I think they have neglected, and no one thought this would have happened, but it has happened. And it shows you that we're lacking in sometimes a bit of foresight. Some of the areas or some of the industries in your area, which ones do you think will be affected first? I mean, I can see that the farmers, they all need diesel, but then you've got transport. If we don't get the food moving, and they're talking about, all the major markets not having food on the shelves, what happens to the farmer though? I mean, does the sale go through? Does the supermarket say, well, you can't deliver it to us, so therefore, it's just bad luck? It doesn't look good for farmers, does it?
Well, it doesn't, but ultimately what happens here, up here in Central Queensland, we've already got transport companies that are paying in excess of $3 a litre for diesel. Now, what will happen to that is that will transfer itself into a trolley full of groceries. Everything we consume comes on the back of a truck. All of the groceries that go to the various grocery stores, doesn't matter where they are, they all come on the back of a truck. Now, if the transport companies have a further fuel cost impost put on them, they will pass that cost on to the grocery stores, and the grocery stores will ultimately pass that on to the consumer. So this is not going to help the whole cost of living issue. We've got interest rate rises that have occurred recently, as I'm sure you're aware. Inflationary effects will take their toll. Everything is going to become more expensive, including filling up your car with petrol to drive down to the grocery store to get groceries that are going to be more expensive.
Yeah, and then we have fairly strong winds up north. Queensland, beautiful one day, very windy the next. We've had a few strong winds of late too, but it doesn't augur well for, you've got the fuel crisis, you've got all sorts of other issues happening around the country, and then you have cyclones. You've got to feel for the people up in north, don't you? You've got to say, okay, enough's enough just about, how do we help the locals up there? Because winds of 260 k's an hour it just about blow me towards Indonesia. So it's very bad, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's right. But please understand this. It is Cape York, and whilst we do feel for the communities up there, Cape York is generally reasonably isolated as far as large populations go. So the cyclone is due to cross the coast, I understand, somewhere north of Cooktown. It will cross the peninsula, go out into the Gulf of Carpentaria, and from the latest mapping I've seen, continue its way across the top of the Northern Territory, northwest Western Australia, and so forth. So it is a big storm. Category 4 was the last advice I had, and again. This is what happens in North Queensland. We do get cyclones occasionally, and we do get quite severe ones.
Yeah, thank goodness the ABC haven't gone climate change, because many would just call it weather. And that's about.
Well, that's it. It's tropical weather, and I'm actually amused by the name they called it, Narelle. So, the good old Australian adage, not wrong, Narelle, yeah. Mm.
Tell me about your electorate, Flynn. Just the diverse range of industries and people.
Well, Flynn is in Central Queensland, and as you already stated earlier, it's about 130 odd thousand square kilometres, approximately twice the size in area of the state of Tasmania. It is probably one of the big industrial engine rooms of Australia, with a huge agricultural sector that just produces anything you can think of. We also have the Port of Gladstone, the largest multi-commodity shipping port in Australia. The fourth largest coal loading terminal in the world is Wiggins Island and the RG Tenner coal loading terminals at the port. We've got Curtis Island gas industry there with all the major players there, the largest liquefied natural gas industry on the east coast of Australia. We've got the Rio Tinto refineries and smelter here in Gladstone as well. Australia's largest cement kiln here, Australia Cement, a huge shipping industry, railway industry, all of the engineering and business that hangs off all of that. 3 coal-fired power stations, go coal, I might add. So it is a huge economic engine room for the economy of Australia right here in Central Queensland.
Have you noticed your electorate changing in demographics? Because as we, you and I, we don't look our age. We're like only 30 anyway. But as everyone else gets older, the electorate does change. Areas change. How has it changed from?
Well, you're absolutely right. What happens with all of the
We've just lost Colin. He will come back in about 1 second. At the moment, what I'll do is I'll just keep filling in. We're talking to Colin Boyce MP. Colin, you disappeared for a second, but you're back now.
Yeah, well, that's our lovely communications network that we've got, and I suggest everybody rings their local member and complains bitterly. But anyway, look, yes, demographics is definitely getting older, particularly in small regional communities. Young people move away and they don't come back. It's that simple. We're losing our government services everywhere. Everything is getting centralised to the bigger regional centres and to metropolitan Australia, where once upon a time there were government outlets in every small community, and we've lost all that.
I have noticed, though, that there is talk and not talk. There are figures that show that a lot of people are moving out of the major markets because the livability is far too expensive. That's only good for the bush, isn't it? Provided we can keep that city slicker attitude away from the bush. I mean, they're always welcome.
Oh, yeah, correct. But and you're right. What we are finding here is that many of these small towns, you can't buy a house in them. They as soon as one comes up for sale, it gets very quickly bought up. And again, you're right. There are many people coming from the outlying reaches of metropolitan Australia and moving to these small communities and larger regional centres because it's easier to buy a house and. It's in some cases a better lifestyle and a cheaper lifestyle for them.
It is. You've got a terrible football team up there. I think they're called the Cowgirls. I'm sorry, the Cowboys. Who do you follow in the footy, by the way?
I'm actually not a big follower of football. I'm possibly one of the only
Really?
people who don't follow football. I get far too busy doing other things. But
You're a brave man
uh,
to say that.
oh, look, I'll watch the football if I have to, but it's not the end of the world if I don't. And I rather view football as a bit like the gladiators in ancient Rome, where it was deliberately put there to quell the masses.
Yeah, I love it. Just keep quelling the masses. That's what I reckon. Colin Boyce MP, federal member for Flynn. Thank you very much. If somebody wanted to contact you to have a natter about the communications not working or price of fuel or whatever, how do they do that?
Well, I have 3 offices: one in Gladstone, one in Emerald, and one in Gayndah. And I'm easily accessible if you get on my social media website, my Facebook page. All of the details are there to contact my office, and happy to talk to you.
Colin, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the weekend. At least you won't be stressed out with the football.
Well, I have to go down to Canberra on Sunday and another 2 weeks in Canberra, so lucky me.
Nah, aren't you lucky? But someone's got to do it. Colin Boyce MP, federal member for Flynn, thank you very much. This is the Country Telegraph.